year with the Redskins. Didn't really matter at the end of the day. The Redskins got the 11-yard pass from Kirk Cousins to Ryan Graham with about a minute 49. Redskins beat the Rams 27-20. And it also goes into the point that the Redskins had 3 rushers that had at least 67 yards.
That shows good balance in the running game right there. It also shows that they don't necessarily have to pound the ball to Todd Gurley every single time.
And what was even crazy, how about Johnny Hecker, the punter? You remember, he was a former quarterback in high school. And he does the occasional trick plays on special teams. Threw a 20-yard pass to Josh Reynolds to get them to the Washington 17. So right there, you got to give him a lot of credit right there when they do that type of stuff. Or they got Tavon Austin on end-around plays. So they were almost in this game. But at the end of the day, the Redskins got the victory. And you got to give it up to guys like Samaje Perine, who now is going to be the number one because, unfortunately, Chris Kelly, their running back, got injured. So Perine, you saw what he did at Oklahoma, so he's going to be a nightmare to deal with. Dolphins, first game of the year, they played the Chargers. They beat the Chargers 19-17. Cody Parkey had 4 field goals. You had 3 big plays, 13 and 15 targets for Jarvis Landry. Devontae Parker had a big play. It was unbelievable. But at the end of the day, it came down to Young Ho Koo, the rookie kicker for the Chargers, missing out on what could have been the game winner.
And also in the game, Antonio Gates broke Tony Gonzalez's touchdown catch record for tight ends.
That's right, 112. Congratulations. Hall of Famer, first ballot for sure when he gets up for election. Jets lost to the Raiders 45-20, including at the end of the first half. And the Giants lost on Monday night 24-10 to the Matthew Stafford-led Detroit Lions at home.
Well, the Jets' loss was quite frankly expected. They're not in the same stratosphere with the Raiders. But as far as the Giants are concerned, we would have thought that they would try to mount a better offensive performance in this game than they did in that disastrous Cowboys game. Well, there are 2 things to take out of this game. Number 1, the Lions' defense is much better than I thought they would be. I mean, they're more seasoned this time.
They exploited the left side, though.
Yeah,
you look at
and they exploited the entire Giants' offensive line. And that leads to the second point to take out of this game. The Giants have got to start using the running game more often. That's part A. Part B is, will this team ever learn how to score in the red zone? I mean, look at what happened on 4th down. Taking a delay of game penalty inside the red zone on 4th down. I mean, and to top it all off,
bad clock management.
Ben McAdoo basically threw Eli Manning under the bus because of bad clock management. I mean, if you're seeing that the clock is running down to 0, you got to call a timeout right there. I mean, I know he can do so much, but part of being a good quarterback is seeing everything on the field. And sometimes the Giants have really developed bad habits for lousy clock management.
The damn clock is right on the field. It's not like you can't see it. They have the clock specifically on the field for quarterbacks to make sure they know how much time is left, on the play. Well, time is left for them to get the play snapped off. Anyway, they did lose 24-10. Ziggy Ansah had 3 sacks. It was unbelievable. And Stafford really showed why he got that contract. As for the Jets, it was just another week of giving up big yards on the ground. Jalen Richard, how about the 53-yard play by Cordero Patterson, a guy who usually is on special teams when he was with Minnesota, and yet they're using him more on a lot of trick plays, and he's very fast in open space. And the 3 touchdowns to give up to Michael Crabtree. That's why you lost, and Marshawn Lynch was dancing on the sidelines, one of the funniest, best moments of the game.
And the Jets have given up almost 300 yards rushing in the first 2 games this season. Absolutely 100% embarrassing. This leads to week 3 of the season, which started last night with Rams and 49ers. A really entertaining game when you think about it. I saw bits and pieces of the game from the second quarter on. Could it be that maybe I was wrong about Jared Goff and the Rams picking him?
I think you were wrong.
In the first round last summer, because these 2 out of the first 3 games, he's actually played well.
if you look at last night, too, it's also the weapons he has around. He has more weapons than just Tavon Austin to throw. You got Cooper Kupp, the rookie. That was a really good pickup right
And,
there.
of course, Sammy Watkins, which was a brilliant pickup that the Rams made. Now they've got
Woods.
And Robert Woods. Now they've got guys that can really give the defense fits and stretch the field.
And Todd Gurley. Not only can he run the ball, but he can catch the ball, too, as well. So it's a really complete team. So Sean McVay's got this team in a whole different direction. And I love Wade Phillips designing the defense. They had a 41-25 lead, which they nearly gave up. It was masterful play on special teams to stop the 2-point conversion from taking place. And the fact that also the 49ers missed out on that field goal.
It's really important that you mention Wade Phillips. For all of the missteps that he's had as a head coach with the Bills and the Broncos and the Cowboys, a lot of people forget he's a brilliant defensive coordinator. He's worked miracles with some of the best defenses in the past. Now he's on a Rams team that has a couple of pieces, especially on the line. And what is there to say about Aaron Donald that has not already been said? The kid's a beast.
That's why you should get a new contract. That's why he held out for a reason, even though it doesn't help your team when you do that. But anyway, they won 41-39, the Rams. They're 2-1 to start the year off. So right now, things are going in a great direction for them. As for the 49ers, you know what? Brian Hoyer did have a better effort this week than he did last week, but they did lose in the end. Now let's go to the beginning of week 3. Giants visiting the Eagles down the turnpike. This game right here is a 1 o'clock game at the Link, home opener for the Eagles. I'm going Philadelphia for the very reason that this week they're going to balance the run. As I mentioned on my live podcast before I went on the air, they got to balance earlier actually in the show, they got to balance the run with the pass. And I think we're going to see plenty of LeGarrette Blount, and we're going to see plenty of Darren Sproles being shoved down the Giants' throat.
And I'll tell you right now, if the Giants do not win this game, you can kiss their playoff hopes goodbye after 3 weeks.
4% of teams at 0-3 in the current format since 1990 have made the playoffs.
And look at the teams that the Giants have to play coming up. Tampa, San Diego, Denver.
Well, anyway,
more meetings with the Redskins and the Cowboys and the Eagles. It's only going to get worse from there.
Who do you pick, though, to win this game if you had?
Philly's going to win this game hands down. It's going to take the perfect game plan for the Giants to try and stop Carson Palmer and that array of weapons that the Eagles have offensively. I mean, Carson Wentz.
And the only way the Giants would win is if they can take advantage of the secondary, which is going to be missing out some players, especially Ronald Darby, who they traded for from the Bills, and Mick Leo could be out too. But the problem is the offensive line doesn't give Eli enough time in the pocket to even make a play like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going with the Eagles.
And by the way, Tampa, the Los Angeles Chargers, Denver, Seattle, and that's the crux of the next 4 games for them. Now, as far as the other 1 o'clock game, interesting that they're having the Jets and Giants play at 1 o'clock. The Jets have the Dolphins, which is their home opener. I think we can pretty much call a spade over here. Jay Cutler is the quarterback. Jay Ajayi is the running back.
Had 122 yards last week, by the way, against San Diego. And the fact that the Jets have given up a combined 370 yards in the first 2 games, that scares me.
That's almost 400 yards on the ground that the Jets have been burned for the first 2 weeks. Who is to say that this game is not going to be any different?
I don't think
Miami's going to win this hands down.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Julius Thomas, Kenny Stills, Jay Ajayi. Yes, they have some issues with their defense, but I'll be honest, I would take Miami's offense over the Jets' defense any day, especially this year. Now, the Falcons, Lions. This is probably the best game of the week. 2 undefeated teams. We have one team guaranteed to walk away 3-0. I'm going with the Lions in this game because they are complete on both offense and defense, especially this year. And look at the missing piece. There are going to be 2 missing players on that Falcons defense, Vic Beasley and Courtney Upshaw. That's huge in their front 7 right there. They're going to miss. Yes, you got Desmond Trufant guarding Golden Tate, but you still got to deal with Kenny Galladay. You still got to deal with Theo Riddick, who's a pass-catching specialist out of the backfield, and Amir Abdullah, who's having an emerging season.
Yeah, I remember seeing Amir Abdullah play for Nebraska. He had an outstanding last 2 years playing for the Cornhuskers. His rookie season was pretty much basically a trial by fire for him, but his sophomore year, he really started to show some flashes. That Giant game was where he really showed that he can be a really good power back in this league. And when you think about it, whereas both teams are really, really close at quarterback and at running back, I think the Falcons have the better group of weapons at wide receiver, and I think that's what's going to win the game for them. I like the Falcons in this one.
Wow, we got a difference of opinion. That's the first one right there. Raiders, Redskins, Sunday night. I actually like this game that's being put on Sunday Night Football. This could be the coming out party of the Raiders to the entire nation.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, with the way they've been playing, with you got guys like Derek Carr, who's really having another outstanding season with the team, and you got the weapons of Amari Cooper, and you have Michael Crabtree, you have Cordero Paris, Jalen Richard, who had a great performance, and Marshawn Lynch, who had 45 yards, but still is a contributor. You got all these players going up against this Redskins defense that they barely won last week against L.A., who gave them a bit of a challenge. I think the Raiders are going to be a lot more difficult for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm going with the Raiders.
Yeah, I like the Raiders too in this one. I just feel that they have a lot more weapons offensively. I mean, think about it. Derek Carr, who's slowly but surely proven me wrong as me being the critic that I am and Carr being the quarterback that he is, a good quarterback, a really good running game, and a really powerful receiving duo. It's hard for the Redskins to try and match that. I just like Oakland in this one. Not only that, but Oakland's just better defensively.
Khalil Mack, and you got Bruce Irvin too in that front seven. They are, and Carl Joseph. Now, Broncos visiting the Bills. I know the Bills, some people are going to go with them, but honestly, I will not. I'm going to go with the Broncos, considering the two teams that the Bills have played, the Panthers and the Jets. They barely lost by 6 points last week against the Panthers. That was all field goals. They had a chance to win that game, be 2-0, because of that bad play from Tyrod Taylor to Zay Jones. And they won because they had 190 yards on the ground, 110 by LaShawn McCoy against the Jets. This time, the Bills are going up against a much more complete team in the Broncos, offensively and even defensively. When you think about Chris Harris, and you got Keith Tlaib in the secondary, Tyrod Taylor's going to have some turnovers. I do not see the Broncos losing. I'm going with...
And especially after that ghastly turnover that he committed in crisis, who's to say that there's not going to be a different result here? Not only that, but the let me put it this way. The Broncos, I should say. The Broncos, I would say not necessarily complete, but close to being as solid offensively as you could find in any team in the AFC this year. Buffalo, I think, is just a one-trick pony offensively with basically LaShawn McCoy and very little else. So I'm picking Denver in this one.
Cowboys, Cardinals. But for the Cowboys, this is redemption on Monday Night Football in University of Phoenix Stadium. And I'll be honest, I think there will be some redeeming for this Cowboys team. I think they will come back. They'll have a much better game plan. The offensive line has got to do a better job in opening up the holes that need to be opened up for Ezekiel Elliott to run, because when you force the game on Dak's shoulders, that we saw last week what happened in Denver, how they collapsed right there when it came down to Dak having to throw the ball. And Patrick Peterson's going to be covering Des Bryant. So that's where Cole Beasley is going to get plenty of targets this week. See Jason win on some crazy plays. And I think we're going to see some trickery with Ezekiel Elliott too. And I think we might see a little bit of Alfred Morris getting some touches as well. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys overall. And by the way, the Cardinals barely won last week against an inefficient Colts team.
Yeah, a game that, quite frankly, they could have lost. There's another thing that you failed to mention. The game is going to be played at University of Phoenix Stadium, but when you look at past history, especially when they were division opponents in the old Eastern Division many years ago. A lot of Cowboy fans traveled to the desert to make up maybe 60 to 70% of the fan base. So I expect a lot of Cowboy fans in this one. As far as the game itself, they're very close at quarterback and at receiver, but I think they've got a major edge at running back with Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to be the X factor in this game. I think he bounces back from that disastrous performance in Denver. I would like to think that he has learned his lesson, but we'll see. I still think he's going to be much better this time. That's why I'm picking the Cowboys as well.
And you got a Cardinals team that is missing their top offensive all-star, and they have to go now to Chris Johnson, the veteran, to be their starting running back.
Yep.
Now, Texans, Patriots. Deshaun Watson will attempt to be the first rookie in 9 tries to win at Gillette Stadium against a Bill Belichick team. Yeah, not happening. As much as I like the Texans and Deshaun Watson and the fact they had a big victory on Thursday night against the Bengals with that 42-yard rushing touchdown, it's apples and oranges, the Bengals and the Patriots. The Patriots are a much better class of a team. It's going to be a much tougher challenge. The Patriots secondary is going to dial up heavily on DeAndre Hopkins and daring Watson and try to throw to some of the other players. If the other Titans are back from their concussions they suffered week 1 against Jacksonville, I don't see the Texans. And J.J. Watt, he has never had a sack on Tom Brady in his career. That's crazy to think about. He never sacked Tom Brady.
The only star quarterback that he has never sacked before.
It's going to still remain like that.
Yeah, think about this. Deshaun Watson's won a lot of big games in his young career, mostly at Clemson. He has a national championship to prove it. But now, this is probably the first real test that he's going to be facing. Starting a game against the 5-time Super Bowl champions. This is the perfect opportunity for him to really make a name for himself. If the Patriots lose this game, you're going to be seeing so many people saying that they're old and that Tom Brady is washed up. No, that's not going to happen. You mentioned before, Bill Belichick has never lost to a rookie quarterback at home. Deshaun Watson is a good player, but the Patriots are going to read him like a book. They're going to throw every kind of coverage against him. One thing that they've done well is that they've always played well against scrambling quarterbacks. They've always done well against any quarterbacks that make plays with their feet, and Deshaun Watson is no exception here. Yeah, I am going with the Patriots in this one. When you think about it, you put 2 and 2 together, a young Texan squad against a veteran Patriot squad. It's just no match.
Seahawks visiting the Titans at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. The Seahawks have had such ineptitude in terms of touchdowns. Only 1 in the year, week 2, when they played San Fran at home, winning 12-9, barely in that game. But we did see Chris Carson emerge in the running back core, 100 yards, the rookie. So I think we're going to see plenty of him for the Seattle offense, more than, say, Thomas Rawls or Eddie Lacy. But on the other hand, the Titans team are much more complete, if you think about it, too. Even if DeMarco Murray is not able to play, they still have a better offensive line. And I'm actually inclined. I'm going to go with the Titans this week. I think the Titans are going to beat this Seahawks team at home, and the Seahawks having to travel all the way to Nashville, even though it's going to be a late game to adjust to their time schedule. But at the same time, Titans team are a better offensive unit so far this year than the Seahawks.
But Seattle's much better defensively, and that's why I'm picking Seattle in this one.
All right, Buccaneers, Vikings. Vikings trying to come off that humiliating 26-9 loss with Case Keenum under center against a Buccaneers team led by Jameis Winston.
That's a really interesting matchup when you think about it.
But the whole question is, will Sam Bradford play or not?
He's not playing this weekend. I know firsthand that he's going to miss his 2nd straight week, which means Case Keenum
Second straight week of it.
is going to have to start for the 2nd straight week. And quite honestly, this could be the perfect time for the Vikings to really pound the ball to Dalvin Cook. They made him a draft pick for a reason, because of his potential. And they basically replaced Adrian Peterson with him for a reason. This is their chance to really give Dalvin Cook a chance to shine, for lack of a better word. But when you think about it, Tampa's just too good offensively. Not only that, but Minnesota has just way too little going on with them with
You got 2 top 10.
Case Keenum. That's why I like Tampa in this one.
This is going to be a defensive game for sure. I think this is going to
Yeah.
come down to a field goal, but I'm going to go with Tampa just edging out with field goals. Bengals, Packers at Lambeau, 4 o'clock game. Bengals and Packers coming off a terrible, humiliating loss. They've had some injuries, especially we don't know whether or not Jordan Nelson will be at 100%, but I am going with the Packers, especially at home against this Bengals team that has failed to score a touchdown.
And this is only going to make a lot more of the critics doubt whether Andy Dalton is the guy to lead them down the road. Do you know that already there are people calling for the Bengals to do a complete makeover starting in the offseason?
Definitely, but at the end of the day,
Too early to sound the alarm. That's all I'm saying.
but I'm definitely. You going with the Bengals or you going?
I still like Green Bay in this one. Green Bay is just much better offensively, but I will say this. I think the Bengals will make it close because all of the manpower losses that the Packers have, it's really going to come back to bite them.
All right, Saints, Panthers. We got several games left. In this particular game, the Panthers much better defensively. They haven't given up a touchdown. They're going up against an inept Saints defense, and that's why I'm going with the Panthers to win this game for the very fact that I think Cam Newton's going to take advantage of that Saints defense. Even with Drew Brees under center, Drew Brees has to keep powering points every single week because of that defense.
Can we see a little dose of Adrian Peterson, please? Because he signed a contract with them for a reason. It's to try and take the load off of the 38-year-old Drew Brees.
Chiefs, Chargers. Andy Reid going back to his beloved L.A. to see football in a soccer stadium. I'll be honest, the Chargers have lost 2 games because of the field goal and 8 games last year because of being down by by 1 possession. It's going to be the same situation. You got Kareem Hunt. You got to deal with Tyreek Hill. And Travis Kelce is just going to be too much for that secondary for the Chargers. I'm going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, just way too much of a disparity on each side of the ball between the Chiefs and Chargers right now. I like Kansas City as well.
Pittsburgh visiting Chicago. Pittsburgh hasn't won in Soldier Field since 1995. The curse will be broken because you got the Killer Bees coming to town, and they're going to swarm Mike Glennon. And if he doesn't perform in the first quarter, forget the first half. If the first quarter Mike Glennon turns the ball over, don't be shocked, folks, to see Mitchell Trubisky sighted on the field.
He should be starting this game, if you ask me, but then again, I'm not the head coach.
And we're going to see plenty.
And for the record, the Steelers are winning this one. The Bears are dreadful. Oh, brother. Ravens and Jaguars in London.
Jolly old London, England, 9:30 on Yahoo. It's being streamed.
This has Ravens written all over it, to be honest with you, because even though the Jaguars do have a lot of potential with Leonard Fournette in the backfield, they still have Blake Bortles at quarterback. And Blake Bortles, aside from the season opener, just has not done enough to warrant any consideration for a future job.
He's a turnover walking on 2 legs. That's why I can't pick the Jaguars. The only thing the Jaguars have is the fact that they've played 5 times in London. That's all. Other than that, they still are going up against a much better offensive and defensive team complete in the Ravens. So, yeah, I'm going with the Ravens. And, by the way, the Ravens, 10 takeaways in the first 2 weeks. That's just insane right there. Now, the worst game of the week, Colts-Browns. There's got to be
Something's got to give.
Colts. There's got to be
Bottom line, something's got to give here. But the question is, does anybody even care? You got a Colts team that may be without Andrew Luck for the rest of the season, much less until October. And you have a Browns team that, let's face facts, the Browns are in rebuilding mode. They seem like they've been in rebuilding mode since they got back into the league in 1999.
And Myles Garrett has yet to take a snap in the regular season, who they selected #1 overall back in April at Texas
Because
A&M.
he's hurt.
Yep, injured himself September 6th before the season even got underway. So now who knows how long he's going to be out. And the reason why they drafted Myles Garrett, because he's a #1 guy. He's really good at disrupting the pass. He's got quick first step. He's a nightmare with his wingspan.
Yeah.
So right there, he puts the fear of God into quarterbacks. And unfortunately, he's not going to be on the field to help the Browns. Now you have to rely on Deshaun Kaiser, who unfortunately last week had several turnovers, bad turnovers. Again, the guy has to learn to get rid of the ball, when there's no play at all. And he's got to be able to not stare his receivers down. That's football 101. Overall, at the end of the day, I think Brissett is slightly better than Deshaun Kaiser. So that's why I'm actually going with the Indianapolis Colts to win this week.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I wouldn't be surprised if the game ended in a tie, to be honest with you. I can't even pick this one.
Now, the best games coming up this week for college football, week 4, we got Saturday night. We have the Florida Gators, my beloved Gators, visiting the Wildcats, Kentucky, on the SEC Network. You got the Penn State Nittany Lions, led by 2 Heisman Trophy candidates in Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley, 2 really outstanding players against the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Then you got a really potential big-time match between 2 ranked teams in the SEC, Mississippi State going to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. My big one on Fox, you got Michigan State and Notre Dame in East Lansing. That's huge right there. And then you got Washington visiting Colorado, Pac-12 matchup. You got UCLA going up north to play Stanford, the Cardinals.
Yep.
It's a nice little nighttime game at 10 o'clock on ESPN. In the afternoon, early games, you got Texas A&M visiting the Arkansas Razorbacks. Alabama's going to play Vanderbilt at 3:30 in Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt came up with a big upset victory over a ranked team last week at home for the first time in several years. I don't think it's going to happen with Jalen Hurts and company. And USC in California, 3:30 on ABC. And Michigan and Purdue. What about that one?
Michigan and Purdue. Great matchup in the Big Ten. Purdue's actually gotten off to a decent start so far. Let's see what they do in their very first test. Big test of the year, going up against a Michigan team that so far has looked real decent. This is the Big Ten opener for both teams, if I'm not mistaken.
So which game this week, besides the local teams, which game are you looking most forward to coming up this week?
I'm curious to see how that Atlanta versus Detroit game pans out, because you've got 2 really good quarterbacks, one of whom has been in the Super Bowl, another who basically is carrying the team on his back to respectability right now. And when you think about it, has also proven to be a very, very tough guy as well. He would have to be a tough guy to try and play in a city with a team whose history has basically consisted of the 50s, and that's it.
The game I'm looking forward to, of course, the Sunday night game between the Raiders and the Redskins right there. We're seeing, the Raiders on a big national stage. This is where they are going to – this is their coming out party for sure. I think they're going to show the rest of the country why they are the team to beat in the AFC besides Denver. They're going to be the 2 top teams vying for that AFC West title. And as for the Ravens this week in London, they're really trying to prop London up to be a future home stadium for an NFL team. And here's my question to the Ravens, though. Even though they're going to win, the loss of Marshall Yanda for the year, their 6-time Pro Bowler due to a leg injury, that could have an impact. The Jaguars could possibly take advantage of that. And there's some other things that concern me this week with the Jets at home with the Dolphins. Their inability to stop the run and their inability to get the run going, and the questionable 4th down call they had last week against Oakland. If I'm Todd Bowles, stop smiling on the sideline. I'm really getting sick and tired of it. At least Del Rio had the guts to at least get fired up and pissed off and showed his emotions a bit, showing that he actually cared, as opposed to Todd Bowles, who's just with that stupid smirk on his face.
Sometimes I wonder if he really cares on that sideline at all, because seeing a guy smirk like that makes me believe that either he has grown tired of all the atrocities that are going on with that franchise, or if he really wonders to himself, why am I here?
And
or both.
As for the Giants, that left side's got to be fixed. If Eric Flowers does not produce at the beginning of the game, switch him to the right side. He's a natural right tackle. I'm just saying, it's the Eric Flowers experiment. I think has failed.
This also reiterates the hard-headedness of Ben McAdoo.
Well, Jamie, as always fun to do the show with you.
Thank you. Same here.
Well, for you folks, thank you all for letting us come into your living room, bars, wherever you're watching the show. This has been another week of the Blitz Zone. For all the good, hardworking men and women at CTV, for Mr. Kenny Graham behind the booth, this is Jamie the Sportsman Hickson. I'm Eric Rosen. We'll see you next week here on CTV. Good night, Staten Island. Peace out. All right. Giggity, giggity, goo.